You know, everything you touch, from the screen you're looking at right now to the food that's in your fridge, it all has a hidden story. Today, we're going to unpack that story. We're diving into the three fundamental pillars that basically hold up our entire modern world. Let's get right into it.
So think about it for a second. Your phone, your breakfast, and the light bulb over your head. I mean, at first glance, they have absolutely nothing in common, right? But they are all tied together by a handful of core resources. And that connection, it shapes our economies, our environment, and our daily lives in ways you probably don't even realize.
So what's the answer? Well, they all trace back to something pulled from the earth. These are the three pillars of our world: the minerals that build our cities, the food that sustains us, and the energy that powers the whole shebang. So let's start with the ground right beneath our feet.
All right, let's kick things off with the literal foundation, minerals. We're talking about the physical building blocks for, well, everything, from massive skyscrapers to the tiny little circuits inside your computer. Honestly, without them, our world as we know it just wouldn't exist. So, what exactly is a mineral? Think of it like this. It's a natural substance that's been forged deep inside the Earth's crust over millions and millions of years. Each one has its own unique chemical recipe, which gives it really distinct traits, like, the insane hardness of a diamond, or the conductivity of copper that makes all our electronics work.
Now, getting these minerals out of the ground is a huge undertaking, and it basically unfolds in four main phases. First up is prospecting. That's the initial hunt. If they find something that looks promising, it moves to exploration, where geologists figure out if it's actually worth digging up. If the numbers add up, the development phase starts, and that's building all the infrastructure. And only then do we get to the final phase, exploitation, the actual work of pulling the resource out of the mine.
And the way they get these minerals really depends on how deep they are. As you can see here, for deposits that are close to the surface, they use open-pit mining. I mean, they literally carve a giant bowl into the earth. But for resources buried way, way down, that's a whole different story. That's when they use shaft mining, tunneling deep underground and cleverly using the old mined-out tunnels to store the waste rock.
Okay, so we've seen how we build our world. Now let's talk about how we fuel all the people living in it. This is our second pillar, food. With nearly 8 billion of us on the planet, the challenge is just immense. How do we possibly produce enough to feed everyone?
The whole story really starts with this one number. The average person needs about 2,600 kilocalories a day just to function. Okay, now multiply that by billions of people, 365 days a year. I mean, the scale of our global appetite is just staggering.
But here's where it gets really important. It's not just about the number of calories. There's this triple challenge going on. You have some people who are undernourished, they're just not getting enough food, period. Then you have others who are malnourished, they're getting enough calories, but they're missing key nutrients. And in many parts of the world, a lot of people are overnourished, consuming way too many of the wrong kinds of calories, which leads to all sorts of health problems.
But trying to meet that global demand, well, it has a hidden cost. Modern agriculture takes a really heavy toll on the planet. We're seeing pollution from fertilizers and pesticides, major water scarcity from these huge irrigation projects, and widespread deforestation just to clear more land for farms. It's a really complex and damaging cycle.
And all of that brings us to our third and final pillar, energy. This is the invisible force that drives everything we've talked about so far. It's the electricity powering the mines and the fuel in the tractors on the farms. Energy is the engine that makes the other two pillars even possible.
Energy sources basically fall into two main camps. Think of non-renewables like a finite inheritance. Once you spend it, it is gone for good. That's your coal, oil, and gas. But on the other side, you've got renewables, which are more like a steady paycheck. The sun keeps shining, the wind keeps blowing, so our supply is constantly being topped up. So here's the catch. A staggering 90% of the world's energy still comes from those non-renewable fossil fuels, and burning them releases this whole cocktail of harmful gases, from the CO2 that's driving global warming to other pollutants that directly damage our respiratory health. Just as a quick example, let's look at coal. Not all coal is created equal. Its quality really depends on how much carbon is in it. Lignite is the lowest grade stuff. Bituminous is the most common one you'll find. But the best quality, the top shelf stuff, is anthracite. It's about 95% carbon, which means it burns hotter and a lot cleaner.
So when you put all three of these pillars together, minerals, food, and energy, you really start to see the bigger picture. Our progress as a species has been absolutely incredible, but it has definitely come at a significant environmental price.
And that environmental bill is coming due.
we're facing serious resource depletion. I mean, minerals don't just grow back. We're dealing with widespread pollution from both mining and farming that gets into everything. And then, hanging over all of this is the massive threat of climate change, driven mainly by our fossil fuel habit.
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom, not by a long shot. The same human ingenuity that built our modern world is now being focused on creating a much more sustainable one. So let's shift gears and look at the path forward. There is an incredible array of renewable solutions right at our fingertips.
First up is solar power, and this is so much more than just sunlight. It's literally the product of nuclear fusion. Deep inside the sun, hydrogen atoms are smashing together, creating helium and releasing an amount of energy that's just impossible to imagine. And that energy travels all the way to Earth for us to capture. How cool is that? Then you've got wind and hydropower. These work on such a beautifully simple principle. They just harness kinetic energy. So whether it's the wind turning those massive blades or water flowing through a dam, that movement spins a turbine, and boom, you've got clean electricity.
And let's not forget our oceans. They're basically a gigantic, untapped battery. We can harness the super predictable power of the tides, the raw force of waves, and even use the temperature difference between the warm surface and the freezing depths to generate power.
We can also look down and all around us. Geothermal energy taps into the planet's own natural internal heat, turning underground steam into electricity. And biomass energy can convert organic matter, we're talking everything from wood to animal waste, into fuel. It literally turns waste into a resource.
So we've seen the pillars that hold up our world, the price of all our progress, and the incredible potential for a cleaner path forward. It really all comes down to this one question. We know what built our present. The real challenge now is deciding how the choices we all make today are going to shape our future. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.